take a look at how this is all being reported in the international newspapers. Elitza Gadava is with us for that. Elitza, we were just listening to Donald Trump there, and as he took off on Air Force One, he said that the war in Gaza has ended. He wanted to make that very clear as far as he sees it. You've had some reactions to that from the Israeli press to start with.
That's right, Eve. So let's start first with some right-wing Israeli papers. The front page here of the Jerusalem Post reads, "God bless the peacemaker." It's a thank you note from the president of the World Jewish Congress, who says that Trump's visionary leadership is making history. And in another article in the Jerusalem Post, this time by the vice president of the same Congress, calls Donald Trump the Alexander the Great of our time and compares the two leaders, saying that Alexander saved the Jews and President Trump is the savior of Israel. In another analysis, the Jerusalem Post talks about the mixed feelings about Trump and Netanyahu at Tel Aviv's Hostage Square. It says that Trump's name was greeted with cheers, whereas Netanyahu's with boos from the crowd. And the analysis says that Netanyahu also deserves some credit for the hostage deal, but he also bears, quote, enormous responsibility for October 7th. And talking about Netanyahu, the Times of Israel reports that the Prime Minister said that the military campaign is not over and there are still major security challenges ahead of Israel.
OK, Elitza, you said you were starting with the right-wing papers. So what are the papers on the other side saying?
Yeah, well, they're also pretty much focusing on the hostage release, as you can imagine. Haaretz here says that Israelis are confronting a paradox of grief and joy. It says that, of course, some families will welcome back their loved ones, but even if they do, they will bear the grief and sadness of their community that has lost loved ones, resulting in a clash of emotions. And in another opinion piece, the paper says that Trump rescuing hostages shows we must welcome help even from controversial figures. And the article says that Trump's Middle East policy was more effective than Biden's. Then it compares the two and it says that the biggest difference between Trump and Biden was the military operation in Gaza and that military pressure was indeed a factor in bringing the hostages back. Eve.
OK, we are just in the early days of this latest ceasefire, Elitza. How are papers outside of Israel seeing it? Let's start with the Arab press.
Yeah, let's take a look at L'Orient Le Jour. That's a Lebanese newspaper, and it talks about that world leaders are meeting in Egypt to discuss Trump's plan, but without Israeli or Palestinians at the table. Their absence is surprising for the paper, since the real uncertainty concerns the second phase of the deal, which focuses on the reconstruction of Gaza, governance, and the disarmament of Hamas. Let's take a look also at Middle East Eye that says that Palestinian prisoners are also set to be released as part of the ceasefire deal, of course. But the paper reports that on Sunday morning, the Israeli army raided some of their homes. And the paper also reminds that Israel has refused to include Palestinian leaders who are serving sentences in the deal. And Israel even threatened to sabotage the deal if Hamas continued to pressure mediators to release them. And finally, Arab News, which is an English language paper published in Saudi Arabia, has an opinion piece focusing on the reaction of the West. It's called The Immoral Hypocrisy of West's Response to Gaza Killings. And the author says that the way the suppressed tragedy of Palestinians is treated in the West is, quote, outrageous. And the article says that the West always places its emphasis on the tragedy of the Israelis while ignoring the suffering of the Palestinians in the enclave.
Well, anything interesting in newspapers in the West? How are they reporting it?
Yeah, the New York Times here is focusing on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The headline here reads, "The uncomfortable truth about Netanyahu's victory." The article says that it's clear that this breakthrough signals the beginning of the end to the war, but it's not that clear to Netanyahu, who is minimizing the deal scope and is still keeping Israeli troops in Gaza. And the opinion piece says that ceasefire deal is actually a defeat for Netanyahu and his government because it contradicts what he promised: total victory and total destruction of Hamas. And then a French left-wing paper, Libération, has an editorial here by Hamdan Mostafi. That's the deputy editor-in-chief of the paper. It says that while we must acknowledge that Donald Trump did play a significant role in the ceasefire, many questions remain unanswered. Talks on complicated issues have been postponed, like how will Gaza be rebuilt, who will lead the Palestinians, or Netanyahu's political future. And I'd like to finish with this illustration here by Lebanese illustrator Hassan Bleibel that shows the return of Palestinians to their destruction and their home. And here we can see the profile of Donald Trump and his peace plan. Eve.
Okay, picture speaks 1,000 words. Elitza Gadava, thanks a lot for that look at the international papers.